Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors get a much-needed win, 107-104 against the Detroit Pistons on Thursday night. Before I get started, I just wanted to begin by giving a shout-out and sending my thoughts out to all of you or all those in America affected by the devastating fires in Los Angeles at the moment. Something that's very close to my heart, given I've been to LA on 4 separate occasions. Easily the city outside of Australia I've traveled to the most in the world. So it's a place I love, place I have had so many fond memories in. Obviously going to multiple NBA games at Crypto.com Arena, or formerly Staples Center. So for everyone that is going through that at the moment, it's so tough to see from over here in Australia, and my thoughts go out to absolutely everyone involved and affected. So I thought I'd just mention that, because at the moment that is obviously a lot more important than sport and basketball, but we are here to speak about that. So that is what I will do after, again, the Warriors get a 3-point nervy win over the Pistons. They certainly made it far more difficult than what it needed to be there in the final minutes. Golden State led 98-80 with under 6 minutes left and relied on a Malik Beasley missed 3 at the buzzer, which would have sent the game into overtime. Really didn't need to get that close and that anxious, but at the end of the day, a Warrior team coming off back-to-back horrible performances to close out their homestand, that 30-point loss to the Sacramento Kings, followed by a 16-point loss to the Miami Heat. To get any win is obviously, after those two performances, however it comes, you take a victory, particularly against the Pistons team, who these are not the old Detroit Pistons. This is a Pistons team that was on a 5-game winning streak, had won 9 of their last 11 games. So to pull that victory out, particularly on the first night of a back-to-back, there's still, like, every game is, brings some level of pressure for the Warriors, given they've fallen back down to 19-18 now and really struggling just to make the play-in tournament. Every game is meaningful, obviously, but it does alleviate some of the pressure going into the second night of a back-to-back against the Pacers on Friday. Clearly, the story of the game in this one, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but the story of the game was Gui Santos. The Warriors completely ravaged by injury and absence. So Andrew Wiggins had to fly back to San Francisco for family, personal reasons, whatever. So he was out from this game. Kuminga obviously out. Brandon Pajemski obviously out. Gary Payton II obviously out. Moses Moody also a late scratch as well. So the Warriors missing 5 rotation players there. You would say only had basically 10 fit bodies to choose from. Meant that Gui Santos had to see some rotation minutes, and oh my goodness, did he take advantage of the opportunity. An equal career high 13 points. And that first half, he was in a game featuring Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Kate Cunningham, like genuine stars out on the floor. Gui Santos, who had not played rotation minutes this season, was the best player in the game in the first half. And I cannot believe I'm saying that, but it is legitimately true. He had 9 points, 3 rebounds, couple of assists, couple of steals. It was a plus 14 as the Warriors build a 10-point lead. And it's really interesting because the other day after that loss to the Heat, I spoke about the disappointment of the lack of energy and spirit in that game. And part of me felt like, hey, maybe this is what happens before the trade deadline, less than a month out now, with all the speculation going on about the Warriors and what they could potentially do and the amount of different players in trade talks. Maybe this is just what happens, consciously or subconsciously. Players just don't fight as hard when they think, hey, I could be off the team in a few weeks. So whether rightly or wrongly, I felt that like that started to creep in a little bit over those last 2 games against the Kings and the Heat. You come into a game like this, you're battling injury issues, you have to play a guy like Gui Santos, and he comes on the floor. And that guy is he's not worried about his long, medium future. He's worried about right now and trying to make an impact, because he knows that the only way he's going to have a medium to long-term future is if he plays every single second as hard as he can. And he gave the Warriors a boost of energy, a jolt of energy that they desperately needed. And it wasn't just that he hit his first 3 threes and he was cashing in there. it was just the hustle and, again, the energy that he brought to the game. And as I spoke about, some of these guys before the trade deadline, maybe they're not diving on the floor for loose balls. Maybe they're not hustling for rebounds as hard as they might generally. And Gui Santos, like, he's not in that position, right? He could get traded, yeah, sure, but he's legit just out there fighting for any kind of NBA future. That is all he's worried about. And as a result, he comes up with some huge plays, some huge buckets, obviously, first and foremost, but then the second chance opportunities, the offensive rebounds he was providing the Warriors, he was massive in that game. And he was rewarded with over 15 minutes in the first half, and then rewarded with playing down the stretch as well, closing the game for the Warriors. He made a free throw there at the end as well. Disappointing he didn't make two and kind of sealed the game a bit more, but he goes 1 of 2. That was enough, I suppose, in the end of the day. So huge credit to him. And the fact that I'm saying Gui Santos was really the story of the game for the Warriors is absolutely extraordinary, because the Warriors needed these performances. They're missing their second and third leading scorers, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins. And Steph Curry goes 5 of 21 from the floor, 5 of 21, 2 of 14 from three-point range, has just 16 points, did have 10 rebounds, 6 assists in 36 minutes, but the shooting from Steph Curry was awful in this game, and the Warriors needed something from somewhere, basically with their best 3 scorers nullified. No Wiggins, no Kuminga, and Steph really, really struggling. So to get that performance from Gui Santos, Lindy Waters also hit 3 threes. His contract's about to become guaranteed as well. So he was important in the first half. And then Buddy Hield, important game for him to come alive. 19 points, team high. Shot 5-11 from three-point range. For him to provide some kind of scoring output was clearly huge in the Warriors getting this win. Few comments here from you guys before I get into a bit more. GSW says, amount of extra possessions Santos has got us. I'm assuming you might have said that in the first half. It was absolutely just diving on the floor, throwing his body everywhere. And that's the thing. When you're not a lead guy, you're not going to have the ball in your hands as much. Like, if you just want to be a genuine role player in the NBA, these are the kind of things that will get you to this point. It kind of reminds me like JTA, like Juan Toscano Anderson in that like 2020, 21, 21, 22 season, those 2 years. Like, he was really good at that. Just like making these like little hustle plays, and maybe Gui might have a bit more offensive talent than particularly in terms of shooting than JTA, but similar kind of play, similar position, similar size. You know, you're a role player. You need to go out there and defend hard, which I think he did. He defended really hard. I think he guarded Cade a few times quite well. So maybe some similarities there in what Gui could provide the Warriors moving forward, with, you know, potentially a much cleaner, better looking, efficient three-point shot as well. So clearly his most impactful and best game of his career. I know he had that game, was in Brooklyn last season, I think, where he actually closed over Clay, and that was quite a talking point. He played really well. He had a bit of a stretch there at a similar point last season where the Warriors were going through some injury issues and they had to turn to him. Lester Quinones has also got minutes. So he has played some meaningful games last season, but I think this was probably his best of his short career so far. Daniel Hall says, wait, what just happened? How is it a 2-point game? Can a win be discouraging? I don't think a win can be discouraging given where the Warriors are at and also where Detroit are at. Again, this is like not the old Pistons of the last 5 years, right, where you go into Detroit expecting to win. I'm not sure what the odds were for this game. Does someone want to tell me what the odds were? But I'm assuming, I know Detroit were on the second night of the back-to-back, so maybe that meant the Warriors. I'm assuming Detroit might have been favorites given the absences that the Warriors had with no Wiggins, Kuminga, Moody, etc. So I don't know. Like, I don't think this can be seen as discouraging. Yes, the final 5 minutes were really poor, and the Warriors were a little bit fortunate there to hold on. But at the end of the day, like, they did find themselves up 18 with 5 or just under 6 minutes to go. So the first 42 minutes of the game were very, very good. And defensively, they were very good. And Steph struggled, but they did find some offensive production elsewhere through Buddy Hield, Gui Santos, Lindy Waters, Trace, I think, had a 14-point, 10-rebound, double-double. They kind of really honed in on Steph, obviously, from a Pistons defense point of view, and that allowed for some some easy looks for Trace at the rim, and also for some, generally fairly wide open looks from Buddy and Santos and Lindy Waters. And fortunately, they actually started to make some. We know that's been such a big issue with the Warriors, 3-point shooting and scoring in general, offense in general over the past month, 6 weeks. So for them to finally start hitting some shots and deliver when Steph was struggling and without Wiggins or Kuminga, I think it's an encouraging win, to be honest. Like, I tweeted it out during the second quarter. I always knew that Gui Santos was the guy to lead the Warriors out of their shooting struggles, because he hit a couple and then all of a sudden Buddy starts making some and Lindy starts making some. And it's like, okay, here we go. And again, the final 6 minutes got very nervy towards the end there. I want to give a shout out to Schroeder. He made a couple of layups there. He didn't have a great game by any means. What do you have? 13 points. 13 points, 5 of 11 shooting, just 1 of 5 from three. The 3-pointer still isn't coming around. Did have 6 assists. I do want to give him some credit. Firstly, for how he guarded Cade. I know Cade ended up going for 32 points, and he had a huge fourth quarter. But I thought before the fourth quarter in the first 3, Dennis giving up so much size, I thought was battling pretty hard. I mean, ideally, you probably wouldn't want him guarding Cade. I suppose if Wiggins was in this game, he would have had that assignment. But credit to Dennis for the way he guarded Cade in the first 3 quarters. And then down the stretch there, he had 2 really important layups at times where the Warriors could not get any offense going. And so credit to him for a couple of big buckets there, which I think was important. Thandeka says, we should stop blowing leads. Pistons went on a 26 run in like 5 minutes. I'm happy we won, but this team is so inconsistent. We could lose tomorrow and have the same conversations again. Do you think Kerr should play Gui more? He was hitting threes, getting rebounds, steals, and a block. I don't think, I know he played really well, and he's going to play minutes tomorrow in Indiana, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Warriors are looking from that perspective. It sounds like they don't want Steph to play both nights of a back-to-back, but given the injury troubles at the moment, I know GP2 and Pods worked out before this game, so I'm not sure if they may be available or if that's going to be the last couple of games of the road trip. But if Pods and GP2 aren't available and Wiggins is unavailable and Kuminga's obviously unavailable, then all of a sudden it's pretty hard to be able to rest Steph and Draymond when you ideally otherwise might. So it's going to be interesting. But either way, you'd imagine Gui Santos will play and get minutes based on this performance. Moving forward, I still think the Warrior rotation is far too deep, for him to be getting legitimate rotation minutes. It's just another guy that you have to throw out there who I don't want Steve to go back to a 12, 13-man rotation or anything like that. So I don't think we're going to see Gui Santos playing, hugely meaningful minutes across consistent portions of the second half of the season. But a game like this one does showcase to you that, hey, he's got something and he might need some more development in the G League. But in the meantime, he can come in and have impactful games. I'm not going to say he's going to come out and play like this all the time, because if he did, then yeah, sure, he's a consistent rotation piece for you. But he's a young player and he's got some tools, and he fights his butt off and he works hard, and that really showed up in this game. It wasn't the 13 points necessarily. It wasn't the 4 of 6 shooting from 3-point range. It was the extra opportunities he created. He had a really nice feed, but one of the best plays of his game, I think, was when he kind of drove into the lane and then just got Duran to bite enough and then dished it off to Looney for a layup. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's showing some stuff. Like, that's more than just catch and shoot stuff. That's more than just like hustle plays and rebounds. That's actually attacking the paint off the dribble and then having the smarts to just be able to get the shot blocker to bite enough and then you to dish it off to your teammate for an easy layup. So I thought that was a great play. Jeffrey says, Gui freaking Santos. Yeah, certainly the story from this game, and congratulations to him. Outside of that, as I said before, the Warriors, Steph really struggled, 5 of 21, 2 of 14, just could not get anything going. He even had a 4-point play in the fourth quarter, and even that just didn't quite get him going. Buddy Hield, I liked the shots Buddy was getting in this game. Like, I was very critical, obviously, that shot he took in the fourth quarter against the Heat, that off the dribble, step back corner 3 that would have given the Warriors a lead. And I defined it as a hero shot, really, like a very inefficient shot that, you're just hoping to make to kind of blow the crowd away and put your team in the lead and really get the vibes up and about. It was an inefficient shot that he missed, and I hate that. If you look at his numbers, I think I saw earlier today, his catch and shoot versus off the dribble, I think he's like 45% or so catch and shoot 3-point looks, and then off the dribble, he's like less than 29%. So it's pretty clear, like his looks have to be catch and shoot. And if he gets the ball and he doesn't have an open catch and shoot look, then get off it. And I thought he did that better in this game. I thought he took his catch and shoot opportunities when they were there, and he made 5-11, which is great. And when he didn't have those looks, he gave the ball up to Steph or Dennis. So a better Buddy Hield game, and trying to find that balance between, him getting those good looks and, not necessarily forcing things up, I think is important, because as a shooter, and we saw this with Clay a lot last season, when your shot's not falling, there is often a thought of, okay, well, I just need to get myself going. I need to see a shot go through the basket. So you do try and force things a little bit too much. And I think maybe that's been the case for Buddy a little bit. And I thought this was a more composed performance from him and from the Warriors in general. I know they only put up 107 points, but the offense, I think there was a much greater balance of inside and outside scoring. And part of that was to do with how Detroit were guarding them. And Trace did get some looks at the rim, and there was so much pressure on Steph. And there were some genuine wide open looks from three, which they finally drew, and they just hadn't been over the past 5 or 6 weeks. So a good game for Buddy Hield. I still don't like the reliance on him from a Golden State perspective. I think I saw a stat earlier on social media that the Warriors are 8-2, I think, when he scores more than 18 points, and then their record, obviously, when he doesn't score 18 points is significantly worse. And I like to think of Buddy Hield as, a supplementary piece, like a nice player to have off the bench who can make some threes and who can have some big games for you. But he's not a guy that I want to be relying upon as a key piece to whether you win or not. And those scoring numbers suggest that he actually is a very important key piece to whether the Warriors win games or not. And I think that's a bit of a worry. And I think that comes down again to the lack of scoring options and the fact that Buddy Hield is one of your lead scoring options. Ideally, I think, again, he's a 5th or 6th offensive option rather than a 3rd or 4th. And I think the Warriors are probably relying on him too much to have good games in order to win. I know he can be a bit of a barometer, but I'd like him to be less of a barometer in terms of winning games. Stendecker says we are 9-0 when Buddy scores 18. There you go. 9-0, not even 8-2, 9-0. And then the Warriors record when he doesn't score 18 is what I'm trying to do the math. They are 19-18 at the moment. So that is 9 games, 28, 10 and 18. Yep, Thandecker's got it for me before I worked it out. 10 and 18 when Buddy doesn't score 18 points. So again, I don't like that reliance. But in a game like this, there has to be that reliance because there's no Wiggins and Kuminga, which is going to make it incredibly difficult tomorrow against the Pacers as well. Now, Tyrese Halliburton is questionable for that game, but regardless, one of the most dynamic offenses in the league. And so can the Warriors actually keep up? Their defense is going to have to be really good because, if Wiggins and Kuminga are going to be out, then there's going to be some issues. There's clearly going to be some offensive issues. You're going to have to be relying on guys that you don't really want to rely upon. You're going to have to rely on surprise performances. No one would have come into this game thinking, Gui Santos is going to play 25 and a half minutes. And if you did, you think, it's probably because the Warriors got blown out and he played all 12 in the fourth quarter. So that's the thing. You need some surprise performances, and the Warriors got that from Santos today. But again, you don't want to be, it's a one-off. You don't want to be relying upon that. Hopefully, I don't know what's going on with Wiggins. I don't know if he can fly back to Indiana and meet the team and be available on Friday. Maybe that's still a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. Dendex says, I hate how we collapsed in the fourth. It should have been an easy win. Yeah, it's an ongoing issue. We know they probably should have won a heap of games this season when they had significant leads in the fourth quarters, and we saw it even during last season as well. The offense kind of stagnates a bit. Too many times I think they're more worried about burning clock, particularly with 3 or 4 minutes to go. And I know that can be important and that can be crucial. It probably was a couple of possessions in this game, but you still want to get good looks at the basket. You still want to get good scoring opportunities. And I think sometimes down the stretch, they probably focus too much on, okay, let's waste some time here. Let's make sure we use the full shot clock. And then inevitably they end up with not a great look at the end of that. And then you haven't got anything out of it. So offensive execution down the stretch is clearly something the Warriors need to address. Whether they, I'm not sure there's any answers on this roster. We've seen Kuminga as a closer a couple of times actually be pretty good for the Warriors. Still not sure if that is absolutely what you want for a team that is still vying to make the playoffs. And again, it's probably, do you need to do it on the trade market? Sounds like, obviously one of the big factors in why you would target Jimmy Butler is for that reason, for your offensive execution down the stretch. Sounds like they're not going down that route. So it's unlikely that they're going to get this second star or whatever via trade before the deadline. And therefore it's just going to have to be, try and figure it out essentially over the remainder of the season in terms of that late fourth quarter offense and trying to balance it out. And Steph, hitting some more shots. Like, he played really badly in this game. Simple as that. I know it's very hard to quantify like just how many good looks other guys get because of Steph and just his sheer gravity. And so there's always that factor. It's hard to quantify that as such. So yes, there's that, but he shoots 5-21, 2 of 14 from 3-point range. Steph would certainly be disappointed with that performance, and we'll wait and see whether or not he plays on Friday against the Pacers. A couple other ones. Kyle Anderson didn't play a whole lot, which was interesting. Looney back in the rotation. Thought he played well. 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, couple of steals in nearly 21 minutes. He's a funny player. Like, I think he's had a pretty good start this season, and it was somewhat surprising that he's been out of the rotation 4 of the last 6 games, or basically 5 of the last 6, because one game he did get minutes was in the fourth quarter where the game was over in garbage time. So the fact he's been out of the rotation has been somewhat surprising, but also I don't think fans necessarily hate it. And it's going to be like pretty heartbreaking because he's a 3-time champion. He means a lot to the franchise if he was to be part of a trade. But he is your proven veteran guy who can sit on the bench for a few games. And then if he's called upon like he was in this game, he can really make a difference for you and still step up and impact in a positive way. And he did that in this game. Waters, again, I thought was okay. Spencer played 4 first half minutes, but essentially it was a 9-man rotation for the Warriors. Draymond, I don't think he played great. 7 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 3 blocks. I thought defensively in the first half he was very good. His 3-point shot's kind of gone at the moment, but you almost expect that as well to a degree. Like, he's not going to have the whole season shooting 45% from 3, so you'd see a regression here a little bit. Thought Trace was good, interesting matchup with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, who are obviously huge guys. Thought Trace held his own in that matchup, so that was good to see because we have seen him recently get bullied a little bit by bigger guys. We know Trace is, he's a big body, but he's only 6'9". So ultimately, at the end of the day, a win's a win, and that's Golden State will take a win against anyone right now, but particularly given their injury concerns and Detroit, being one of the best teams in the league over the past couple of weeks. A good win for the Warriors, albeit a little bit disappointing with the finish there and the fact that it got so close. I might finish it up there. Thank you very much to those of you that have tuned in live, or if you're watching back on replay or listening via the podcast feed. Good win for the Warriors. They'll play the Pacers tomorrow. I'll be back for another post-game live for that game. Until then, hope you guys have a great 24 hours until I see you again.